This video was filmed in the course of a few days, and within those few days, I had a bunch of camera problems. Majority of this video looks different from this, and there are a few times where I jump in with different levels of video quality. So just be prepared for when you see that. It's going to look like horse shit. Oh well. Thanks for watching. I know I haven't posted in like about a month, which is gonna be pretty normal for a little while. This channel is effectively a representation of my thoughts and my mind as time goes on. I'm not doing things how a YouTuber should be doing things. That's just kind of how it's gonna go for a little while. It may seem like I'm well articulated and stuff like that, and you know, to a degree I am, but I can only know so much because of my age. You don't gain experience until you go through things. And even though I do have a lot of opinions, I would like to find fundamentally what I believe in, things like that. And if you've watched any of the live streams lately, that's kind of been the last two topics of discussion, is like I've been talking to one of my friends and figuring out where I stand in that. So this is kind of going to be a video of me explaining my conclusion as far as like believing in God and where am I? Where do I align? You know, am I an atheist? Am I somebody who believes in God through one of the religions that humans have constructed, or am I somewhere in the middle? I would just say, before we get like super into it, when you watch any of these videos, it's basically like a view into my brain. It's not like I'm trying to make a video because of anything specifically. It's not like I'm making videos to push a point or whatever the fuck. At the end of the day, each of these videos is just my brain. Like a piece of my brain that I'm putting somewhere for me to look back on later on. Because I feel like that would be super beneficial to me, for me to be able to look back at myself and be like, okay, I wonder what I was thinking then. Or like, oh, sick. You know, it's kind of a catalog of my thoughts and like a lot of these like moments, you know, and this is one of them. It's almost like a notebook for me, kind of. You're in your own brain, you're able to, you know, bounce things around, and like over time you like mold it and stuff like that. Like, and it's just a kind of a one-on-one experience. And like with the environments around you, you have that experience as well. And those experiences mold your mind and your thoughts and stuff like that. The people you surround yourself with, you interact with, society you live in and stuff like that. All of these things. And an extra level to that environmental change and molding of your mind would be something like putting it online and having that extra level of impact and like people's input, basically, or like a societal input, like an internet input kind of thing, where that also will mold my thoughts and mind and like opinions over things, and give me a different perspective, because it exposes my brain and my thoughts to a lot more people for them to have like an input on like those things, as opposed to just my friends and like the people around me and stuff, because it opens it up to the world kind of. And I think that's super interesting, and I kind of like that. So I guess where to start? Religion, I guess. I grew up in a Christian household where, you know, if you've grown up in a Christian household or somewhere that has like a religious background, whatever it is in your family, you grow up and that's kind of what you know. Like, that's what it is. There's no like question, is there God, or is there heaven, is there hell? That's just kind of normal. That just is what it is. And I never really questioned it for a long time. I mean, obviously kids aren't going to question that much, because, you know, you learn from your parents and the people who raise you that is just the way it is, you know. There's nothing really to question. I don't even know at what point it would have changed for me, because I remember like distinctly that I was like still like praying and stuff up until I was at least like 12, 13. But, you know, at that point, I was living with my dad and my mom. It wasn't necessarily like pushed that hard. And at a certain point, I was kind of exposed to a lot more things at that point. And that's where you start to like develop a little bit more of your own like self. I don't think there was ever a point where I was like, I do not believe in God, or I don't believe, or like I absolutely like hate God and stuff, you know. Like I never like had like an atheist route. I don't remember what point when I was a kid it was just normal and there was no question. Heaven, hell, real. God, real. Jesus, the savior. I think the only thing that could explain it is that I used to live with my grandparents, and they were very like religious, like we went to church and stuff, and like went to youth group and stuff. At a certain point when I reached about like 12, 13 years old, I moved in with my parents. They had a different approach. I think they never really wanted to push it so hard that it was like religion onto me. They wanted me to believe like in something more than myself, you know. They didn't, that's kind of like what they taught me. And like, they were like, hey, religion, whatever, who cares about like the religion doesn't matter. It's a matter of like your connection with something above, something greater than yourself. You know what I mean? It's not about adhering to the laws made by like man and stuff like that. It's about your connection with the creator. Because my mom is Native American, and that's more, I think, along the lines of what she adheres to and stuff. I guess just hearing from my parents that I was like, they were just like, yeah, I mean, like, you don't have to believe it or anything. I'm like, what do you mean believe? So yeah, that concept of believing was super interesting, like as I was like saying it, because I actually never had thought about this before. Just having the concept from my parents when I moved in with them was interesting, because it never even came in my mind the idea that there was anything other than God, you know? It's not even the fact that I had to try and believe in a God or something like that. It was just the fact that there was even a possibility of not. I think that's what truly like spun everything around for me, was that point, realizing that it's not the only way of looking at the world and stuff, or viewing the world. But I guess over time, I've become a lot more analytical and like opinionated, I suppose. And that's like the sparks notes of my life, sparks notes of my religious journey, I suppose. Up to probably about the time that I moved out, where I just didn't go to church ever after I moved out. There was really nothing that tied me to the church besides the friends that I made there. And at a certain point, about the time that I was like 15 years old, 16 years old, I knew that was like realistically the only reason I was going was because I wanted to see the people that I met through church and stuff, the friends that I made along the way. And that was the only reason. I didn't have this connection with God that everybody seemingly had. And I just had a connection with the community that was there. There's no other reason for me to be there besides showing up and having a community of people that cared to have me around, you know? And that's something I definitely miss a little bit. I miss a lot of the like community and like the people that I met through like church and stuff, because that was like the first time I had like a group of people that I could call like friends and stuff like that. But yeah, besides that, there was no connection. I didn't have this like any like thoughts really. I didn't think about it too much about like, oh, is there a God? Is there this, that, whatever the fuck, you know? And it wasn't until the last month or so I've been like super like, I need to lock down what I believe, because in order for me to go forward with this channel, I need to know a lot of the fundamental basis for what I'm talking about, right? And I feel like that's just another thing that's adding to this responsibility that I feel like I need as a commentator. I need to actually understand myself before I go out and like commentate on other people and like commentate on all these other things. I need to actually have an answer. If somebody asks me, do I believe in God? I need to tell them why I don't, or why I do, or this, and this. I need to be able to point them in a direction of like, okay, this is why I believe in X, or why I don't believe in X. You know what I mean? Or this is whatever. And I think that's like something fundamental as a commentator or somebody who speaks on anything needs to be able to answer those questions. It's one of the big problems that I've illustrated in a lot of the last like 7 videos that I've made, is this issue that I have with people not being able to fundamentally understand their own points, and not being able to fundamentally understand why they are saying what they're saying and why they believe in what they believe. And that's why these videos are going to take super long. In between, they're going to be a very long time, because I have to come to terms with what I believe and like what I actually think. And that's why a lot of the times these videos are going to feel like, it's going to feel a lot like that I am not posting as much as I should be. But the reason is because I don't ever want to become these reactionary commentators, these people who just put out their opinions as soon as something drops. As soon as the new drama drops, they drop an opinion. You know, I want to be able to be that person that you could look to every time he posts, or every time I post, and you know that I have put a lot of thought into this, you know? That's what I want to be. I don't want to be somebody who posts every single day about something brand new, about these new topics, and always has like some fucking opinion about it and like goes crazy and like super loud. I just want to be somebody who thinks through different subjects and then, after a lot of consideration, puts out my opinion, my stance. And it could be the case that by the time I'm 30, 33 years old or something like that, that I have the capabilities to be able to apply my own input more often and quicker because I've developed my beliefs during my 20s, you know, and obviously it'll change over time, but that's just what I need to do right now. Is right now, while I'm 23 years old, I need to be aware that I don't have all the answers and that I should not be talking to you guys like I do. And if I'm going to make a video on something, I should do as much as I possibly can to be as educated as I possibly can on any particular subject that I want to talk about. What do I believe? Yeah, I guess that's the main question, is what do I believe? I believe in the possibility of God. And the reason I get to that conclusion is because I don't like this idea that there's people who have an objective fact of the matter, or that they have the objective knowledge that there is or is not a God. There needs to be a metric in which you're able to measure the realities in which we live in order to make objective statements about anything. It seems like from a religious standpoint, or somebody who believes in God, they derive their knowledge from something out of this world, something that we as humans cannot perceive. And I know that sometimes that sounds like, oh, if you can't see it, you can't believe it. Well, no, I just think that there's nothing as of right now that gives them the credibility to be able to claim an objective fact of the matter of whether or not there is a God. I think that's irresponsible and something I don't want to align with. Obviously, I don't have a problem with you believing that there is a God, but I don't like this idea of that it's objectively true. It's the same reason I don't align with atheists, because they kind of do the same thing, but in the opposite direction, and for different reasons. Because they say that the lack of evidence is evidence that there is nothing, and that's not how it works. Debunking what the religious people say is what gives credence to the atheist arguments and stuff, I guess. But they don't know, and they can never tell me that they actually know. They can't tell me whether they know that there is a God or not. They can't tell me that there is heaven or hell or not. They can't objectively tell me what happens after we die, or what happens before we even come onto this earth, or how the universe formed, what started it, how it started. There's nothing there. They don't know. And the same goes for the religious side, is they just can't tell me with anything of this earth, of this world, of this human realm, a metric in which to measure the reality of God, or that there is an outer realm of heaven or hell outside of divine intervention, of a message from God himself, or their self, or whatever. That's why I land where I'm landing, and I don't make the claim either way. One of the ways I've been explaining it a little bit, if we go back in time, the earliest civilizations had no real understanding of the world, no real understanding of the environments they were in. They were just living, surviving, and just trying to be. They didn't have any true understanding of the ways in which the world functioned. So a lot of these phenomenons and things would eventually be attributed to God. As groups started to congregate and communities started to form, they would form it around religions and beliefs that they all aligned with, and that was their way of explaining how the world works, is attributing natural phenomenons to God, the weather, basically everything that they could perceive from where they were with the little technology that they had. And as time moves on and as time progressed from those points, we gain more and more understanding through technological advancements to better understand the way that the universe functions. Over time, we start to realize that, oh, hey, this has an explanation for why this works like this. We start to have more metrics in which to understand the things that are happening around us that before seemed inexplainable and were attributed to God. And now they don't have to be solely attributed to God, because we have metrics in which to measure them from a human's perspective. Gaining these things doesn't automatically negate the reality of God. It could be the case God is still behind all of this, but at the very least, we are gaining a better understanding. And this is where I come from as far as why I come to the conclusions that I come to, because I like to map a lot of my conclusions and reality in what we can perceive on the human level. We're trying to know or state objective facts about things that are imperceivable right now seems dishonest and like a waste of time. Not a waste of time, but like it just seems dishonest for me to claim that I know that God is real when there isn't really anything to support that besides just believing. And I don't like to just believe. I think that leads us to very bad places sometimes, is if we just believe what people say, believe certain things. Like, I feel like we should have some level of skepticism as far as like claims that people make. And if they don't have any backing behind it, then I don't know, like making an objective statement or like having a strong stance about something seems irresponsible to me. I guess that's just like the best way for me to kind of map myself onto reality, is thinking about it that way, you know? If I was born in the 1500s or some shit and we didn't know what the fuck rain was, maybe I would believe like, oh yeah, that's just the creator. We gotta dance to bring the rain down, you know what I mean? But I'm born today where we have like all these metrics and things like that to measure all of these factors that used to be inexplainable, and they're explainable now. But I guess here I am at this point, and I know now, like, okay, there are things that are inexplainable right now that we don't have answers for, and we don't have metrics in order to measure them. So I can't say whether or not there is a great all-powerful being that started the universe, and I can't say there isn't. I'm gonna stick with just that I believe in the possibility that there is a God. And until we have a metric in which to measure that type of thing, something that we can measure and perceive in the human reality, until that point, then I can't make a definitive statement. That's just kind of where I'm at. I don't want you coming away from this video thinking that I'm shitting on religion or trying to disprove religion. My goal is to basically give you guys kind of a foundation of what I believe and like why I go about future topics in the way I do. And I also want to give you why I believe there is a possibility of God. It's kind of just up in the air. I don't want to make a strong stance about something that there is no metric to prove or disprove. That's why I don't like when religious people say they have proof and atheists say that they have proof of whether or not there is a God, because they don't. Neither of them can tell me anything. The only thing atheists can prove is that religious people don't have proof, and that's it. Like, they can't say one thing or the other, so there's no stance in which to be like, there is no God, or there is God. That shit's stupid as fuck for like atheists to be so hell-bent against religious people. You could get pissed off that they are like claiming something so objective, but then you cannot also objectively claim the opposite. The only objective statement you can say is that you don't know. That's the problem I have with atheists. The big problem I have with religious people is the fact that they try to map their moral code onto the rest of the world because of some divine power that may or may not exist. I just don't believe that we as humans have figured it out. I think it's fucking crazy that we think we know everything or anything. To sit here and think like, we know the true God. Get the fuck out of here. You can believe that there is a creator. That's fine. But you have to come to terms with the fact that it is only a belief. That you have to just be okay with the fact that you don't know. Still believe it. That's fine. I could believe in God tomorrow or something like that. I could believe, oh yeah, maybe that is something. Whatever. I'm not going to tell you that it's true. Fuck out of here. That's it. That's all I want you guys to take from this, is that anybody who's telling you that they know for a goddamn fact God is real is full of shit. And anybody who's saying that God is not real for a fact is also full of shit. We don't know what the fuck is going on. I think I actually did have it pretty much correct when I wrote this community post. I said a lot of hot topics in America tend to be split into two different mind frames, and you know, like whatever, fuck the America part. It's just like there's a lot of like different worldviews that you can have your brain inside. It's like a brand new lens to look at the world in. One that believes in God and like this and that, whatever. Like we'll just use that as an example, as like the one that believes in like a God, and one that doesn't. or one that believes in the possibility of it. And you usually have to engage with both to a certain degree, but not at the same time, because it's impossible. You can't engage with them at the same time. They just don't work. They just don't match. They don't work together at all, because there's so many things that are fundamentally different and that change the world entirely. They're completely different languages that you have to learn in order to get a full grasp of your thought on certain subjects. And I think that's true. I think I need to be able to speak a religious language, not like Hebrew or some shit, but like, you know what I mean? I need to be able to understand what they believe, and I don't need to internalize it, but I at least need to understand them, because it's kind of the same thing that I was talking about in the Red Pill video, where I was saying a lot of people talk about other groups as this caricature and illustration that isn't really what they are. In order for me to talk about different subjects, I need to actually understand them and who they are and what they understand and what they believe and stuff and the way they view the world. Because otherwise, I'm just another fucking asshole who turns on a camera, slaps down a mic, and just talks about how the other side is bullshit. You know what I mean? And that's fucking boring, you know? I just want to talk about what I believe. There's more videos coming. I have to script out a bunch of them. I also want to have some fun videos because that's also been in my brain. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed, and eat shit.